My son yelled at me in front of 25 people during Christmas dinner. "Mom, if you want to keep living here, pay rent like any other tenant or leave." What Ethan didn't know was that this nearly 2,000 square foot penthouse in the Upper East Side, Manhattan, where he proudly claimed to live thanks to his brilliant career as an architect, was mine. The silver Cadillac CT5 he parked nightly in the garage was mine. The credit card his wife Chloe used to buy designer bags on Madison Avenue was mine. Everything, absolutely everything, was mine. I am Eleanor Vance. I am 64 years old. And this is the story of how my silence almost destroyed my only son, and how breaking it saved him. The aroma of roasted turkey filled every corner of the penthouse. I had been working since 6:00 a.m., preparing the apple pie, the homemade pecan bars, and the candied yams Ethan had loved since he was a child. 25 people were settling into the dining room. Cousins, uncles, Ethan's friends, Chloe's colleagues. The table gleamed with fine china and crystal goblets reflecting the Christmas tree lights. I moved from the open kitchen to the dining room, serving, clearing plates, refilling glasses with a rich Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. My apron was stained with gravy, my hair pulled back in a simple bun, my hands, wrinkled with age, trembled slightly as I held the heavy tray. "Ellie, sit down for a moment," my cousin Sarah said to me with that condescending smile I knew so well. "You've done enough." "I'm fine," I replied, forcing a smile. From my position next to the open kitchen counter, I could see the entire dining room. Ethan was seated at the head of the table in his white linen shirt and that luxury watch Chloe had given him last year. He was talking to his cousin Alex about his latest project. A corporate high-rise near Park Avenue. "This month has been insane," Ethan said, gesticulating with his wine glass. "The client is pressuring us hard on the deadlines. But hey, the salary of a senior architect in NYC isn't bad at all. It's enough to maintain this place, the car, and everything else." Chloe, seated next to him, smiled with satisfaction. She wore a red dress that probably cost more than a nurse's monthly salary. Her perfectly manicured nails shone as she stroked Ethan's arm. "And yet," Chloe added, raising her voice slightly so everyone could hear, "the bills never stop. This house, the decor, maintaining the lifestyle. Nothing in this city is free." Several heads nodded. My Uncle George cleared his throat. "She's right. Rents around here are impossible. Minimum $4,000 or $5,000 a month for a decent place." "Exactly," Ethan said, straightening up in his chair. "That's why I always say you have to work hard. No one gives you anything in this city." I felt a knot in my stomach but kept serving the turkey. No one looked at me. No one noticed how tightly I gripped the serving spoon. The conversation continued to revolve around money, the cost of living, and how difficult it was to make ends meet for people who had just ordered the third $80 bottle of wine. And then it happened. Ethan wiped his mouth with his napkin, took a sip of wine, and looked directly at me. In his eyes was something I recognized immediately, the same determination his father, Anthony, had when making important decisions. But this time, that look brought nothing good. "Mom," he said in a tone that cut through all conversations, "since we're talking about the subject of the house." The dining room fell silent. 25 pairs of eyes turned toward me. "I've been thinking," he continued, setting his glass on the table with a soft but firm tap, "that if you want to keep living here with us, you should contribute a share of the rent, like any adult who shares a space." Time stood still. "It's only fair, right?" he added, seeking approval in the eyes of the others. "We're all adults. And if it's difficult for you with your widow's pension, well, maybe it would be better for you to look for something more commensurate with your means." Chloe nodded, taking a drink of her wine. "Nowadays, we all have to be responsible for our expenses, even if we're family. In fact, precisely because we're family, we must be honest about these things." I looked around the table. My cousin Sarah avoided my gaze. My Uncle George coughed again and focused on his plate. A couple of guests nodded slightly, as if to say, "That makes sense." My Aunt Patrice even murmured, "Well, yes, at our age, we should be more independent." No one, not a single person, raised their voice to defend me. No one said, "How dare you speak to your mother like that?" No one asked, Are you really going to kick her out on Christmas? The silence was so dense that I could hear the ticking of the wall clock in the kitchen. I felt as if 28 years of sacrifice, sleepless nights, of building an estate so that my son could have a future, evaporated with the penthouse's air conditioning. Carefully, I placed the spoon on the counter, folded my napkin, and placed it next to my untouched plate. I stood up, feeling my knees creak. "Thank you for coming," I said, my voice so serene it surprised me. "This will probably be the last Christmas dinner I spend in this house." Ethan blinked, confused. "Mom, you don't have to be so dramatic. We're just talking about being realistic with—" "You're right, Ethan," I interrupted him, looking him directly in the eyes. "It's time to be realistic." I turned and walked toward the hallway leading to my bedroom. Behind me, I heard uncomfortable murmurs, chairs scraping, someone trying to resume the conversation with, "Well, who wants dessert?" I closed my bedroom door. The sound of the latch was soft, but in my mind, it echoed like the definitive end of an entire chapter of my life. My mind drifted back 30 years. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the small room that had been my refuge for the past 3 years. A twin bed, an antique dresser, 2 photo frames on the nightstand. I picked up one of them, Anthony and me. The day we inaugurated our first building in Brooklyn Heights, I was 34 years old. I wore a simple floral dress and my hair up. Anthony held the ceremonial scissors, ready to cut the ribbon. Behind us, a modest 4-story building. Our first dream come true. How did I get here? How did I go from being a young mother with a dream to a widow supported by her own son? Let me tell you the truth. The truth no one at that table knew. It was 1989. Anthony and I met in a small town in rural Pennsylvania. I was 19. I worked cleaning houses. He was a bricklayer. He was 22 and had the hardest working hands I had ever seen. We married 6 months later in a simple ceremony in the town church. Our honeymoon was a weekend trip to the Jersey Shore. When Ethan was born, we lived in a 300-square-foot studio apartment in a working-class block in Astoria, Queens. Anthony worked construction 12 hours a day. I kept the books for small businesses from home, with Ethan sleeping in a crib next to me. Every dollar we earned went into a metal box hidden under the bed. No luxuries, no vacations, just work, saving, and a dream. Buying our own property took us 12 years. 12 years counting coins, 12 years refusing dinner invitations with friends because we had already eaten, 12 years of secondhand clothes from the thrift store, 12 years watching Ethan grow up in that tiny studio, sleeping with us until age 7 because there wasn't room for another bed. In 1995, we finally bought our first apartment, about 450 square feet in Brooklyn Heights, for $45. We renovated it ourselves. Anthony installed the plumbing. I painted the walls. 6-year-old Ethan handed us tools. We rented it to a young couple for $200 a month. That money went into another metal box, and then into another apartment, and another. Anthony had a gift. He could look at an abandoned building and visualize exactly how to turn it into something beautiful. I had another gift. I could make every dollar multiply in the ledger. In 2003, we bought our 5th building. The lawyer suggested forming a company to manage everything legally. Anthony thought of the sparrows he always saw on the electrical wires in Brooklyn Heights. Small but tireless. Vance Properties, he said, like our last name, but with wings. Together, we weathered the 2008 financial crisis when others sold in a panic. We bought strategically. Buildings in Long Island City, condos in Chelsea, commercial spaces in the Flatiron District. By 2015, Vance Properties LLC had 47 properties in its portfolio. And then, on a rainy Tuesday in November 2017, Anthony put his hand to his chest while reviewing blueprints in our office. "Ellie," was the last thing he said before collapsing. The hospital informed me it was a massive heart attack. "He didn't suffer," the doctor said, as if that would comfort me. Back in the present, I opened the nightstand drawer and pulled out a manila folder. Inside were documents no one in this house knew existed. Articles of incorporation for Vance Properties LLC, shares, Eleanor Vance, 85%. Executive Director, James Taylor. Property contracts, Upper East Side Penthouse, 234 Galileo Street, Owner, Vance Properties LLC. Vehicle, silver Cadillac CT5. Plates AE6, registered to Vance Properties. Temporary authorized user, Ethan Vance. Additional credit card, primary account, Eleanor Vance. I went through the pages slowly. Each document was a reminder of what I had built and what I had allowed my son to believe was his. 3 years ago, Ethan had finished architecture school. He got a job at a respectable firm. His salary was about $107 a year. Not bad for a recent graduate, but not enough for the lifestyle he had always dreamed of. One day, he came to visit me at the Vance Properties office. I kept a low profile, working from a small back room while Jim handled public meetings as CEO. "Mom," Ethan said, sitting across from my desk, "I want to move out. I found an apartment for rent in the Upper East Side, but it costs $7,000 a month. With my salary, I can do it, but it's going to be really tight." I looked at him. He had inherited Anthony's eyes. That determination, but also a certain youthful naivete that didn't yet know the true price of things. I opened the internal system for Vance Properties on the computer. "We have an empty penthouse on Galileo Street," I told him. 2,000 square feet, renovated 2 years ago. Market value, $8,500 a month. Ethan's eyes widened. "Mom, that's miles out of my budget." "I'll rent it to you for $3,500, I said. "It's an internal discount, family and employee rate." His face lit up. "But you don't need it. I'm fine in my place in Brooklyn Heights." I lied. In reality, that apartment was also mine, but he didn't know that. Besides, I preferred to live simply. He was young. He deserved a good place. He signed the contract that same week. On paper, it said, "Lessee, Ethan Vance. Lessor, Vance Properties, LLC." He never asked who was behind Vance Properties. 2 months later, Chloe came into his life, a fashion influencer with 50,000 followers on Instagram. I watched her posting photos of the penthouse. My architect boyfriend has impeccable taste in spaces. When they got married, I gave him something else, an additional credit card linked to my primary account. "Just for emergencies," I told him, "in case you need something important." Something important became dinners at high-end restaurants. Emergencies were $2,000 handbags. I received the statements every month and paid them in silence. $600 here, $500 there, $400 on a trip to Miami. I never said anything. And when Ethan asked to use one of the company cars to present himself better to clients, Jim signed the authorization I approved from my small office. "It's temporary," I told Jim, "just until he saves money to buy his own car." 3 years later, temporary was still his silver Cadillac. I took out my cell phone. It was 11:47 p.m. on Christmas night. Outside, fireworks from some private party lit up the NYC sky. I dialed a number I had on speed dial. "Jim, it's Eleanor." "Eleanor, Merry Christmas. Is everything okay?" His voice sounded worried. James Taylor had been Anthony's right-hand man, and after his death, he became my confidant and the only one who knew the full truth about my role in Vance Properties. "I need you to prepare all the documents related to Ethan first thing tomorrow morning," I said, looking at the photos on the wall, the lease agreement, the vehicle authorization, the additional card statements. There was silence on the other end of the line. "Are you sure, Eleanor?" "Completely sure," I replied. It's time my son learned the true meaning of the word independence he likes to use so much. I pulled a suitcase from the closet. A cloud of dust puffed out when I opened it. It still had the tags from a trip to San Francisco Anthony and I had planned before his death. We never made it. I started folding my clothes. I didn't have much. 3 blouses, 2 pairs of pants, 1 sweater, underwear, my comfortable shoes. Everything fit perfectly in half a suitcase. I stopped in front of the closet mirror. A 64-year-old woman looked back at me, gray hair pinned up, wrinkles around the eyes, hands marked by decades of work. I had spent nearly 40 years building something important, and for the last 3, I had allowed my son to trample that legacy while I served dinner in silence. Why did I do it? Why did I let him believe that lie? Because I wanted him to be happy. Because I wanted him to feel successful, capable, independent. Because I thought if I gave him everything, he would naturally be grateful. I was wrong. Silent love that sets no boundaries isn't love. It's complicity with selfishness. I closed the suitcase. The sound of the zipper was definitive. I grabbed my purse, put in my wallet, my phone, the keys to my other apartment, the real one, the one Ethan had never seen. I opened my bedroom door. The sound of laughter and music came from the dining room. They had resumed the party. They probably thought I was crying in my room, that tomorrow I would emerge repentant, begging forgiveness for ruining their Christmas. I dragged the suitcase down the hall. The wheels on the hardwood floor made a screech that cut the music like a knife. The conversation ceased. 25 heads turned. Chloe was the first to speak with that condescending smile. "Eleanor, don't be dramatic. No one is kicking you out. We're just having an adult conversation about responsibilities." I interrupted her. "You're right, Chloe. It's time we all became responsible adults." Ethan rose from the table, his cheeks slightly flushed from the wine. "Mom, where are you going? I didn't mean for you to leave today. I just wanted you to understand." "I understood perfectly," I said firmly from the doorway. "I understood that you believe this house is yours, that the car is yours, that everything you have is thanks to your effort." "Because it is," Chloe interjected, standing up. "Ethan works hard, he gets up early, he works late. No one has given him anything." I looked her directly in the eyes. There was so much I could have said. I could have revealed everything right there, pulled out the property documents and thrown them in her face, but I didn't. Because the best lesson doesn't come from words, it comes from consequences. "You're right," I simply said. "No one gives anything away for free. See you soon." I opened the penthouse door. Ethan took a step toward me. "Mom, at least tell me where you're going. Let me call you a cab." "It's not necessary," I replied. "I already called a car. But at least text me when you arrive, just so I know you're okay." I looked him in the eyes. My son, the boy I had carried in my arms, the young man I watched graduate, the man who had just chosen pride over love. "When I deem it necessary to communicate, I will," I said softly. "Merry Christmas, Ethan." I closed the door behind me. The building hallway was silent, illuminated by cold LED lights. I dragged my suitcase toward the elevator. I didn't look back. I didn't cry. I just breathed. For the first time in 3 years, I breathed without the weight of a lie crushing my chest. The elevator descended the 7 floors in silence. When the doors opened on the ground floor, the night doorman looked up, surprised. "Leaving, Mrs. Vance? So late." "Robert," I said, remembering his name. Even though he probably believed I was just Ethan's mother. "Would you do me a favor? When they come to pick up the silver Cadillac in the next few days, the one in bay number 7, allow them access. They have company authorization." Robert blinked, confused, but nodded. "As you wish, ma'am." Outside, a black Lincoln Town car was waiting for me. It wasn't a taxi. It was a Vance Properties car, driven by Michael, one of our trusted employees. "Good evening, Mrs. Vance," he said, taking my suitcase. "To the apartment in Brooklyn Heights?" I settled into the back seat. The city passed by the window. Illuminated streets, tourists walking even on Christmas, closed stores with glittering displays. This city, my city, I had conquered it dollar by dollar, brick by brick, contract by contract, and somewhere along the way, I had become invisible in my own story. The car turned onto a quieter residential street in Brooklyn Heights, a stark contrast to the bustle of the Upper East Side. That was where I really lived, an 850-square-foot apartment in a 4-story building with no doorman, no luxuries. Michael stopped the car in front of number 23. "Need help with the suitcase?" "No, thank you, I can manage." I climbed the stairs. There was no elevator to reach the 2nd floor. I opened the door with my key. The apartment smelled like a little used space, like places only opened occasionally. It was my secret refuge, the place I came when I needed to think, work without interruption, or simply be Eleanor Vance, businesswoman, instead of the mother supported by her son. I left the suitcase by the door and sat on the couch. The silence was absolute. No music, no laughter, no son telling me to pay or leave. just me and the decisions I would have to make at dawn. I pulled out my cell phone. I had 3 missed calls from Ethan. 1 text message. "Mom, please tell me you're okay. I didn't want you to leave like that." It was just a conversation. Call me. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and logged into the Vance Properties system. I clicked on the folder. Assets assigned to Ethan Vance. The list appeared. Lease agreement, 234 Galileo Street. Expires January 31st, 2024. Assigned vehicle, Cadillac AE6. Temporary authorization. Additional credit card, $5. $9 limit linked to primary account. 3 clicks. That was all it took to change my son's life. Was I being cruel, vengeful? No. I was being a mother who finally understood that the greatest act of love is not giving everything, but teaching the value of every single thing. I closed the laptop. Tomorrow, I would speak with Jim. Tomorrow, the process would begin. That night, I slept better than I had in 3 years. The Vance Properties office occupied the 3rd floor of a modernist building on Park Avenue, right between 2 luxury boutiques. I arrived at 8:30 a.m. on December 27th. The receptionist, a young woman named Sophia, nearly spilled her coffee when she saw me. "Mrs. Vance, we weren't expecting you. Good morning." "Good morning, Sophia. Is Jim in?" "Yes, he arrived half an hour ago. He's in his office." I walked down the hall. On the walls were photographs of our most iconic buildings. In one of them, taken 5 years earlier during the inauguration of a housing complex in Chelsea, Anthony appeared in his construction helmet, smiling at the camera. Next to him, slightly out of focus, was me. No one knew who that woman was. To everyone, she was just another employee. I knocked on Jim's door. "Come in." James Taylor, about 45, with graying temples and always immaculate, stood up when he saw me. "Eleanor, please sit down." I didn't sit immediately. I walked toward the window. From there, I could see the entire avenue. Morning traffic, tourists with maps, office workers rushing to the subway. "Did you bring the documents?" I asked. Jim opened a manila folder on his desk. "Everything is here, but before we proceed, I need to ask, are you absolutely sure, once we start this—" "Jim," I interrupted, turning to him, "Anthony and I built all of this in silence, with humility. We never wanted to be the rich family that shows off. But somewhere along the line, my silence stopped being humility and became a lie. A lie that allowed my son to speak to me as if I were a burden." "I know," he said softly. "I never agreed with keeping him in the dark, but I respected your decision." "It was my mistake," I admitted, "and it is my responsibility to fix it." I finally sat down. Jim slid the folder toward me. I opened it. The first document was the penthouse contract signed 3 years ago, automatically renewed annually. Clause 12. 3. The lessor may terminate the contract with 30 days' notice if it chooses not to renew. The second document was the vehicle authorization. Simple, direct. Vance Properties LLC authorizes the temporary use of the vehicle Cadillac CT5, plates 482 KLM, to Ethan Vance for company representation purposes. The authorization may be revoked at any time. The third was the credit card statement for the last 6 months. My hands trembled seeing the numbers. High-end restaurant in the Upper East Side, $847. Louis Vuitton Madison Avenue, $10 Iruware. Four Seasons Executive Suite, $4 Iru. Trip to Las Vegas, $6 Iru. Designer furniture, $3 $800. The list went on, page after page of expenses totaling nearly $100,000 in 6 months. Meanwhile, I was still wearing the same navy blue coat from 5 years ago. "Did you bring Rachel too?" I asked, referring to our lawyer. "She's waiting in the conference room." Rachel Miller, a 50-year-old woman with a reputation for being ruthless but fair, had handled our legal affairs since Anthony died. When I entered, her laptop was already open, and several legal codes were marked with yellow sticky notes. "Eleanor," she said, shaking my hand. "Jim briefed me. I'm very sorry about what happened." "I don't need condolences," I replied, sitting down. "I need legal solutions." Rachel nodded, appreciating my clarity. "Very well. We have 3 assets your son currently enjoys: the residence, the vehicle, and the credit card. Let's look at the options for each case, Rachel said. She opened a presentation on her laptop and turned the screen toward me. Property, Upper East Side penthouse. The contract is due to expire on January 31st, she explained. Legally, you have the right not to renew it. You just need to send formal notice with 30 days anticipation, which would be today, December 27th. If he refuses to leave, then we initiate eviction proceedings. But honestly, Eleanor, I don't think that will be necessary. When he receives the notification from a property management company, not from his mother, the reaction will be different. And if he tries to find out who the owner is? Rachel smiled slightly. Vance Properties LLC is a limited liability company. The partners are not public. He would have to request formal information from the registry, which takes time, and by then, the 30 days will have passed. Vehicle, Cadillac CT5. This is simpler, she continued. It is company property. He only has temporary authorization to use it. We can revoke the authorization immediately and request its return. How is that done? We send formal communication requesting the return of the vehicle within a maximum of 48 hours. If he doesn't comply, we send a company employee with a tow truck and the spare keys. Do it, I said without hesitation. Additional credit card. This is the simplest, Rachel said. It is an additional card linked to your personal account. You can cancel it with a single call. Immediate effect. I looked at the 3 documents in front of me. My son would receive 3 blows in a matter of days. He would lose his house, his car, and his unlimited access to money. Isn't that too harsh? Jim asked quietly. Can we do it gradually? First the card, then the car, and then… No, I interrupted. Gradual would be cruel. It would be like cutting off a finger every day instead of ripping the bandage off all at once. He needs to feel the full impact to understand the magnitude of his mistake. Rachel looked at me with something resembling respect. You are stronger than I thought. I am not strong, I replied. I am a mother who was blind for 3 years and finally decided to open her eyes. We spent the next 2 hours drafting the documents. 1. Letter of non-renewal of contract. Dear Mr. Ethan Vance, Vance Properties LLC, in its capacity as the lessor of the property located at 234 Galileo Street, Upper East Side, hereby notifies you that the lease agreement expiring on January 31st, 2024, will not be renewed. Pursuant to housing law, you have the indicated period to vacate the property in the same condition in which it was delivered to you. Sincerely, James Taylor, Executive Director, Vance Properties LLC. 2. Vehicle return request. Dear Mr. Ethan Vance, the purpose of this letter is to inform you that the temporary authorization for the use of the vehicle Cadillac CT5, plates 482 KLM, property of Vance Properties LLC, is revoked as of this date. We request the return of the vehicle within a maximum of 48 hours to our facilities at 89 Park Avenue. In case of non-compliance, we will proceed to recover the asset by corresponding legal means. Sincerely, Assets Department, Vance Properties LLC. 3. Credit card cancellation. This only required a call to the bank. Rachel dialed on speakerphone. Chase Bank. Cards Department. This is Laura. How may I help you? Good morning, Rachel said. I am calling on behalf of Mrs. Eleanor Vance, account holder, ending in 823. We need to cancel an additional card. Certainly. In whose name is it? Ethan Vance. 1 moment, please. Yes, here it is. Do you wish for immediate or scheduled cancellation? Rachel looked at me. I nodded. Immediate. She replied. Perfect. The card will be blocked in approximately 2 hours. Anything else? Yes, I added, leaning toward the phone. I would like to receive a detailed expense report for the last 12 months, please. Of course, Mrs. Vance. We will send it to you via email during the day. We hung up. Rachel closed her laptop. That's everything. The documents will be sent today by certified mail and email. The card will be canceled before noon. And the car? When do you want us to retrieve it? Tomorrow, I replied. Give him time to read the letter first so he understands this is serious. Jim leaned back in his seat. And you? Where will you be when all this explodes? In my apartment, I said. I don't plan to hide. If Ethan looks for me, he knows where the office is, but I won't make anything easy for him. What if he goes to the press? Rachel asked. Millionaire mother kicks out her son. That would be a juicy headline. Let him, I replied. I have 28 years of documents showing exactly how I built this estate. And I have 6 months of bank statements showing how he and his wife used it as if it were a personal ATM. I stood up. My knees creaked slightly. 64 years. Sometimes I felt all of them in my bones. Thank you both. I know this is uncomfortable. Eleanor, Jim said, standing up. Anthony would be proud of you. He always said true love sets boundaries. I wish I had listened sooner. I felt a lump in my throat. I wish, I whispered. I left the office at 11:30 a.m. The winter sun shone over Park Avenue. Tourists took photos in front of St. Patrick's Cathedral. A couple argued about which restaurant to choose for lunch. Life went on. I stopped in front of the Louis Vuitton window. On the central mannequin was a bag I recognized from the statements. $700. Chloe had bought it in October and flaunted it on Instagram with the caption, "When your husband spoils you." Just then, my phone vibrated. A text from Ethan. Mom, good morning. Where are you? I stopped by the apartment in Brooklyn Heights I thought was yours, but the doorman says a young couple lives there. Can you call me? I'm worried. I put the phone away without responding. I walked toward a small cafe in Chelsea, one of those places that doesn't have Instagram, just good coffee and honest sandwiches. I ordered a cortado and a pastry. The total? $6. Chloe probably spent that on a single nail at the salon. My phone rang. It was Jim. The emails have been sent, he said. Ethan should receive them any minute. Eleanor, are you really okay? Yes, I replied, looking out the cafe window. For the first time in 3 years, I'm okay. I hung up and took a sip of the hot coffee, strong, unadorned, like the truth that was about to hit my son. Day 1, December 28th, 9:15 a.m. Ethan opened his laptop at the penthouse dining table. Chloe was still asleep. They had been up until 3:00 a.m. arguing about the Eleanor drama. She's so over the top, Chloe had said. Your mom has always been dramatic. She'll be back tomorrow begging forgiveness. But that morning, there were no texts or calls, just a strange silence that tightened his stomach. He checked his inbox. Among corporate emails and newsletters he never read, he saw a subject line that chilled him. Formal notice, lease termination, sender, Vance Properties Administration. His heart began to beat faster. He opened the email with trembling hands. He read the first line, then the second. Then he had to read it 3 times because his brain refused to process it. Will not be renewed. Vacate the property. January 31st, 2024. What? He whispered. He looked up the phone number at the bottom of the email and dialed. It rang 4 times before a professional female voice answered. Vance Properties Administration. Good morning. Yes, hello. This is Ethan Vance. I received an email about the cancellation of my lease. It must be a mistake. I always pay on time. I've never had any issues with... One moment, Mr. Vance, allow me to review your file. Ethan listened to the keyboard clicking. Each second was an eternity. Mr. Vance, there is no mistake. The owner decided not to renew the contract. It is their legal right under Clause 12. 3. But why? Did I do something wrong? I don't have that information, sir. We only execute the owner's decisions. I need to speak with him. This makes no sense. Who is the owner? That information is confidential. If you wish to appeal, you may send a formal request to our office on Park Avenue. Park Avenue. I know that office. It's close to where I work. Can I help you with anything else? Yes. Can I re-rent the apartment when it goes back on the market? Of course, you can apply like any other applicant. The market price is approximately $18 a month. Ethan almost dropped the phone. $18, but I pay. You pay $3,500, Mr. Vance, a preferential rate that will no longer apply. The line went dead. Ethan stared at his phone screen. $18,000. His monthly salary was about $800 or $300 after taxes. It was mathematically impossible. What's going on? Chloe appeared in the doorway wrapped in a costly silk robe. Why are you shouting? We're being evicted, Ethan said, his voice hollow. We have to leave the apartment before January 31st. Chloe blinked as if he were speaking another language. No, impossible. This is your apartment. It's rented, Ethan murmured. It always has been. But you pay on time, you have rights. They can't just… Yes, they can. And they did. Chloe walked over and read the email over his shoulder. Her face changed from confusion to disbelief, then to fury. This is because of last night, isn't it? Your mother did this. She somehow convinced the owner. I don't know. Ethan rubbed his face. But I have to find out. He grabbed his jacket and the keys to the Cadillac. Where are you going? To the Vance Properties offices. I'm going to talk to someone face to face. This cannot be happening. It was 12:30 p.m. Ethan parked the Cadillac in a nearby garage. $15 an hour, a fortune he normally wouldn't care about. He walked quickly toward the Park Avenue building. He had never been there before. The facade was elegant, modernist, with high windows and ornate iron balconies. A discreet plaque read, Vance Properties, LLC, 3rd floor. He took the stairs 2 steps at a time. When he reached the reception desk, a young woman greeted him with a professional smile. Good morning, how may I help you? I need to speak with the director, the manager, whoever makes decisions here, Ethan said, trying to remain calm. I'm a tenant and I just received a ridiculous eviction notice. My name is Ethan Vance. The receptionist checked something on her computer. Her expression changed slightly, almost imperceptibly, but Ethan noticed it. One moment, please. She stood up and disappeared down a hallway. Ethan took the opportunity to look around. The walls were decorated with photographs of buildings. Ethan recognized some, the housing complex in Chelsea, the offices in Long Island City, and then he froze. In a large photograph in the center of the wall was his father, Anthony Vance, in a construction helmet, smiling in front of a half-finished building. The plaque below read, Anthony Vance, co-founder, 1989-2017, in memoriam. His father had been a bricklayer. He had never mentioned owning anything at Vance Properties. A man about 45, impeccably dressed and with graying temples, approached with his hand extended. I'm James Taylor, Executive Director of Vance Properties. I understand you have concerns about your lease agreement. Ethan shook his hand automatically, but his mind was still processing the photograph of his father. Yes, Excuse me, that photo. My dad worked here. Jim followed his gaze, and something akin to sadness crossed his face. Anthony was much more than an employee, he said softly. But that's another matter. Why don't we step into my office to talk? Jim's office overlooked all of Park Avenue. Ethan sat in a leather chair while Jim opened a file on his desk. Mr. Vance, Jim began, I understand you have concerns, but the decision not to renew your contract is entirely within the legal framework. The owner. Who was the owner? Ethan interrupted. I need to talk to him. There's been a misunderstanding. My mother. She said something inappropriate at Christmas dinner. If somehow that reached the owner's ears… Your mother has nothing to do with this, Jim replied, although Ethan noticed something strange in his tone. It's simply a business decision. Then let me at least apply to renew. I can pay more. The market price is $18,000 a month, Jim said firmly. Can you afford that amount? Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. The math was brutal and obvious. There are other apartments in the city, Jim continued, not without a certain compassionate tone. I suggest you start looking soon. The market in January is competitive. Ethan stood up, feeling dizzy. This isn't right. Something isn't right here. On his way out, he looked at his father's photograph again, and then he noticed something he hadn't seen before. In the background, slightly out of focus, was a woman in a simple dress with her hair up. She was holding a folder and talking to a man in a suit. Something in her posture felt disturbingly familiar. At 2:15 p.m., in a shopping mall near Park Avenue, Chloe had decided that a little shopping would be the solution while Ethan dealt with the apartment issue. She was going to pick up the dress she had seen for the New Year's Eve party. In the checkout line, she took out the silver card she always used, the one that never had a limit, the one that made the salespeople treat her like royalty. She slid the card through the reader. Declined. "Could you try that again?" Chloe asked with a tense smile. The cashier tried 2 more times. Declined. Declined. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the cashier said. "The card isn't going through. Do you have another form of payment?" People in line started murmuring. Chloe felt her cheeks burn. "It must be a system error," she said quickly, tucking the card away. "I'll come back later." She left the store, her heart pounding. She immediately called the bank. "Chase Bank, this is Maria. How may I help you?" "My card was rejected," Chloe said, trying to sound calm but authoritative. "I need to know what's going on. It's the card ending in 4829. "One moment. Can I have the primary account holder's name?" "Chloe Ruiz Vance. I see here this is an additional card. The primary account holder is Eleanor Vance." Chloe felt like she had been splashed with ice water. "My mother-in-law?" "Yes, ma'am. And the card was canceled yesterday at the request of the account holder." "Canceled?" "That's correct. It ceased activity at 2:32 p.m. Anything else I can help you with?" Chloe hung up without answering. Her hands were shaking, not from sadness, but from rage. She immediately called Ethan. "What happened?" He answered, exhausted. "Your mother canceled my card." "Which card?" "The one I use, the usual one. How dare she?" Ethan took a second to respond. His voice changed. "Chloe, that card isn't yours. It's an additional card from my mom." "You said it was ours?" "That the company gave it to you as a benefit." I thought, "No, Ethan. You either lied or you were too idiotic to know the truth." "Chloe, calm down. We can fix this. I have my own card. We can use—" "Your card has a limit of $5 hours," she spat out. "Do you know how much I spend a month? Do you know how much it costs to maintain my image, my social media, my life?" "Maybe that's the problem," Ethan murmured. "What did you say?" "Nothing. Forget it. I'm coming home. We need to talk." Chloe hung up and stood in the middle of the mall, surrounded by strangers' shopping bags, glittering displays, and things she could no longer have. For the first time in 3 years, Chloe Ruiz felt poor, and she hated that feeling with every fiber of her being. Day 2, December 29th, 8th, 00 a.m. Ethan woke up with an intense headache. He had spent all night arguing with Chloe. She wanted him to do something, to talk to his mother, to fix this. But how? His mother wasn't answering. He didn't know where she actually lived. And every time he tried to think clearly, the image of his father on the Vance Properties wall returned to his mind. At 8:15 a.m., the doorbell rang. Ethan opened the door expecting the delivery person with the breakfast Chloe had ordered, paid for this time with visible disgust using his card. Instead, he found 2 men in reflective vests, clipboards in hand. "Good morning, Mr. Ethan Vance. We're from the Assets Department of Vance Properties. We are here to retrieve the vehicle Cadillac CT5, plates 4182 KLM. Ethan blinked, confused. "Retrieve? That's my car." The older man opened his clipboard and showed him a document. "According to our records, the vehicle is the property of Vance Properties LLC. You had temporary authorization for use, which has been revoked. We need you to hand over the keys and sign the handover document." "This is ridiculous," Ethan yelled, feeling the blood rush to his face. "I was given that car 2 years ago. I use it for work. You can't just come and take it." "Mr. Vance," the man said with professional patience, "here is the document. The vehicle was never transferred to your name. It has always been company property. Here is your signature authorizing temporary use for representation purposes." He showed him a sheet, and there it was. Ethan's signature from 2 years ago on a document that clearly stated authorization temporary. How had he not read it carefully? "And if I refuse?" Ethan asked, his voice strained. "Then we will proceed to recover it with a tow truck and the backup keys we have in our possession. Mr. Vance, this can be easy or difficult. You decide." Chloe appeared behind Ethan, still in her pajamas. "What's going on?" "They're taking the car," Ethan said, his voice defeated. What? Chloe pushed past Ethan. That car is ours. You can't. Ma'am, please, the employee interrupted, maintaining a professional tone. We are only workers following orders. If you have any complaints, you can take them up with our offices. Ethan turned around, went into the apartment, and returned with the Cadillac keys. He dropped them into the man's hand without saying a word. Thank you for your cooperation. Please sign here. Ethan signed the return receipt. The men inspected the car, took photographs, and 10 minutes later, the silver Cadillac disappeared down the street. Ethan and Chloe stood at the building entrance, looking at the empty space in the garage. Your mother, Chloe said slowly. She's systematically destroying us. I don't understand. Ethan shook his head. None of this makes sense. How can my mom have so much power over... He stopped. An impossible, absurd idea began to form in his mind. The photograph of his father at Vance Properties, the word co-founder, the strange looks from James Taylor, the fact that the apartment, the car, and the card were all linked to Vance Properties. No, he whispered. It can't be. What can't be? Chloe asked, but Ethan was already running back to the apartment, looking for his laptop, to find the truth. Ethan typed into Google, Vance Properties owners. The first results showed basic corporate information. Vance Properties, LLC, real estate management company founded in 1995. Executive Director, James Taylor. Portfolio, 47 properties in NYC and the metro area. Estimated value, approximately $40 million. He opened the images section. Photos of buildings, inaugurations, press articles appeared, and then he saw it. A photo from 2015 taken at the inauguration of a residential complex in the Flatiron District. In the foreground, James Taylor cutting a ribbon, but in the background, clear as day, his mother, Eleanor Vance, in a business suit, talking to two men in suits who were listening to her with evident respect. Ethan zoomed in on the image. The caption read, James Taylor, Executive Director of Vance Properties, at the inauguration of the Vance Towers complex, a project developed by the Vance family. The Vance family. With trembling hands, Ethan searched LinkedIn. Eleanor Vance, New York. There was no public profile, but searching through Vance Properties employees, an entry appeared without a photo. Eleanor Vance, principal shareholder. No, it can't be. Ethan ran his hands through his hair. Chloe came closer to read. Your mother is the owner of Vance Properties? I don't know. Maybe. Oh my God, Chloe, I think she is. Then that apartment is hers, and the car is hers, and the card is hers. Everything is hers. Chloe collapsed onto the couch, pale. We've been living in her house, spending her money. And you? She looked at him furiously. You showing off to everyone that you did it all yourself. My God, Ethan. You told her to pay rent in her own house. Ethan felt nauseous. I didn't know. I swear to God I didn't know. How could you not know? Did it never seem strange that an Upper East Side penthouse cost $500? I thought it was a preferential employee rate. She always lived so modestly, with her old clothes, her small apartment. What small apartment? Chloe let out a bitter laugh. I bet anything that little apartment was also a facade. She probably has a huge house in the Hamptons that she never showed us. Ethan stood up abruptly and grabbed the apartment keys. Where are you going? Chloe asked. To find someone who will actually tell me the truth. At 2:20 p.m., Ethan arrived at Mount Sinai Hospital. His grandmother, Carol, was in room 304 recovering from pneumonia. Ethan hadn't visited her in a week. He was too busy with parties and work. When he entered, she was awake, reading a magazine. Seeing him, a shadow of disappointment crossed her face. Ethan, what a surprise. He approached and kissed her wrinkled cheek. She looked fragile, small under the blankets. How are you feeling? Better. The nurses say I can go home in a few days. That's good. There was an awkward silence. Carol looked at him intently. You didn't just come to ask about my health, did you, dear? Ethan sat beside her. I need you to tell me the truth about Mom. What truth? The money. Everything. Carol slowly closed the magazine. So you finally found out. She sighed, a weary sound that seemed to carry decades. I knew, son. I was there from the beginning. I watched your mother and father save every cent for years. I saw them buy their first apartment. I saw them build that empire brick by brick. Why didn't they ever tell me, Grandma? She sighed even deeper. Because your mother wanted you to be strong on your own. She didn't want you to grow up like those spoiled, entitled kids who think the world owes them something. But they lied to me. They didn't lie to you, Carol corrected firmly. They just didn't tell you everything, and that's very different. They let you believe that you were maintaining the house, that you were taking care of her, Carol said in a gentle but firm voice. And that made you feel good, didn't it? Ethan opened his mouth to protest, but the words caught in his throat. It made you feel important, Carol continued. The successful son taking care of his poor widowed mother. Ethan lowered his gaze. Your mother, Carol went on, could have lived in a mansion. She could have retired 10 years ago, but she chose to live modestly. She chose to work every day, and she chose to give you advantages without making you dependent on them. Or at least, she tried. What do you mean? Ethan asked. Ethan, how much did you spend last month on restaurants, clothes, trips? He didn't answer. Your wife, Carol almost spat the word, posted 47 photos last month showing off her luxury life. Handbags that cost more than a nurse's monthly salary, while your mother, the woman who owns all of that, wears the same coat from 5 years ago. I didn't ask for any of that, Ethan said weakly. You didn't ask for it, but you accepted it, Carol replied. And not only did you accept it, son, you boasted about it. You told the world you had achieved all of it yourself. Ethan closed his eyes, overwhelmed by shame. And on Tuesday night, Carol added with a sadness that hurt, in front of 25 people, you told your mother to pay rent or leave. Tears began to stream down Ethan's cheeks. I didn't know, he whispered. And does that make it better? Carol asked, taking his hand with her weak but firm grip. Your mother taught you with her silence. But you learned the wrong lesson. You thought her humility was weakness, that her generosity was an obligation. What do I do now, Grandma? Carol squeezed his hand. Learn what she wanted to teach you from the beginning. The true value of things. The effort it takes to build something. The difference between having privileges and earning them. How do I start? From scratch, son. Like your mother and father did. Without their money, without their contacts. Just you and your own effort. It's the only way you can look her in the eyes again someday. Ethan stayed there for a long time, holding his grandmother's hand, crying for everything he had lost, and for everything he was just beginning to understand. 2 weeks later, in January, Ethan stood in front of an old building in a working-class neighborhood of Brooklyn. The paint on the facade was peeling, there was no doorman, the mailbox was rusted. This is number 23, said the real estate agent, a young man with too much gel in his hair. 450 square feet, 1 bedroom, small kitchen, 8th floor, no elevator. How much? Ethan asked. Oneers $800 a month. That includes heating. Ethan looked at the agent, then at the building. It was terrible, but it was real. I'll take it, he said. $100 a month plus utilities. Chloe, standing behind him with her arms crossed, let out a bitter laugh. This is a joke. It's a shoebox. It's what I can afford, Ethan said without looking at her. I can't live here, Chloe grumbled. Look at this place. What am I going to post on Instagram? Living my best life in an apartment with no elevator. Then don't live here, Ethan replied, exhausted. The agent coughed uncomfortably. Do you want to see the interior? Oh, yes, Ethan said. Absolutely not, Chloe said at the same time. Ethan looked at her for the first time that day. Chloe, I have to make a decision. I need to hand over the keys to the Upper East Side penthouse on January 31st. I can afford this place. It's ugly, it's small, but it's what my real salary can cover. That doesn't work for me, Chloe said firmly. Ethan, this is not what I accepted when I married you. What did you accept? A contract where I would keep you in eternal luxury. I accepted a life, she countered. A life you promised. The successful architect, the nice apartment, the trips, the dinners. That life wasn't real, Ethan said, feeling something break inside him. It was a lie. A lie my mother financed while I believed the story. Chloe took off her sunglasses and looked at him coldly. Then find a way to get it back. Talk to your mother. Beg her forgiveness. Do whatever you have to do, but don't ask me to live in this. She looked at the building with contempt. Ethan shook his head. My mom won't take my calls. She doesn't answer texts. I don't even know where she really lives. Well, find out, she snapped. Go to her office, plead with her if you have to. I'm not going to beg for money. Why not? Chloe threw her hands up in indignation. Pride? Now you have pride. You didn't have it when you were spending her money on $800 dinners. The truth of her words hit him like a punch. Ethan took a deep breath. I'm going to rent this apartment, he said finally. Can you come with me or not? You decide. He turned back to the real estate agent. I want to see it. Chloe stayed on the sidewalk while Ethan climbed the stairs. She didn't follow. When he reached the 8th floor, panting, his legs burning, he understood that Chloe was right about one thing. This wasn't what they had before, but for the first time in his life, it would truly be his. The apartment in the rundown neighborhood of Bushwick, Brooklyn, was as depressing as it looked from the outside. The walls had water stains, the kitchen had appliances from the 1990s. The bathroom had pink tiles, probably original from 1975, but it was his, or it would be after he signed the contract. Ethan moved in on January 30th with 2 suitcases and a feeling of shame that weighed on his chest like a stone. Chloe had left 3 days earlier, flying back to her parents' house in Miami, leaving a note that only read, "Call me when you're the man I married again." Ethan didn't know if he had ever been that man. He spent his first day in the new apartment sitting on the floor. He still had no furniture. He looked at the cracked ceiling, running calculations on his cell phone. Net salary, $2, $800. Rent plus utilities, $920. Food, $300. Transportation, subway and bus, $60. Basic expenses, $100. Total, $1,420. He had $1,380 LEFT OVERAMONTH. INHISPEREVIOUSLIFE CHLOESPENTTHATONASINGLEPAIROFSHOES ONFEBRUARY15TH ETHANSTARTEDLOOKHINGFOREXTRAWITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITHITH YESWHEN HEHADAMETHANDREWANDREWILLIAMS EARDOFFICEWASINANAD APTEDINUSTRIALSPACEBRICKPOSEDBRICKWANHEIGHTSEDEBRICKSMADEWITHREPURPOSEDWITHREPURPOSEDWOOD FIVEYOUNGEMPLOYEESWORKINGONMACBOOKS SURROUNDEDBYMODELSANDBLUEPRINTS ETHANLOOKEDBUTTHESOUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRUNESTIRU THEREWASHISFATHER TWENTYYWASMILINGALONGSIDEOTHERSIDEOTHERWORKERS Audio HOWMUCHETHANASKED 1380 left over a month. In his previous life, Chloe spent that on a single pair of shoes. On February 15th, Ethan started looking for extra work. His position at the architecture firm PWL, but no tanavto klembout of the emotionella and economicole hewasin. One night, while eating in Stantra on the floor of his empty apartment, the dining table wouldn't tarry until the following week. He received a text from an unknown number. Hi Ethan, I'm Andrew Williams. I run a small practice in Brooklyn Heights. I work on social housing projects. Your father worked on some of our first buildings. I've seen your portfolio. Interested in talking? Ethan replied immediately. Yes, when? On the 20th, he had a meeting with Andrew. Andrew Williams' office was in an adapted industrial space in Brooklyn Heights. Exposed brick walls, desks made with repurposed wood, 5 young employees working on MacBooks, surrounded by models and blueprints. Andrew looked about 50, with messy hair and the energy of someone who still loved his job after decades. Your father, he said, pointing to a photograph on the wall. He was one of the best bricklayers I ever worked head with. He understood the structure of a building like Nilsa, not just the construction, but the Sulufa space. Ethan looked at the photograph. There was his father, 20 years younger, smiling alongside other workers. I didn't know you worked together years before he and your mother founded Vance Properties, Ethan said. Andrew looked him straight in the eye. You know what your father told me once? Buildings aren't at for showing off, they for people to live in with dignity. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. I have a project, Andrew continued. Renovating housing in East New York. Old buildings that we need to convert into accessible apartments. The budget is tight. The salary is in, but the work matters. How much? Ethan asked. $200 a month for 6 months. If it works out, maybe more. It was less than he earned at his current job, but Ethan nodded. When do I start, Andrew? Andrew smiled. Monday, bring sturdy boots. You'll be on the construction site, not just in the office. By March 45th, Ethan was getting up at 6:00 a.m. He took the subway and then the bus transfer out to East New York. He worked on dusty construction sites until 6:00 p.m. He returned home exhausted. He ate something simple. He had learned to cook pasta, omelets, and basic salads, and spent his nights drawing designs on his old laptop. One Saturday, his neighbor, an older woman named Maria, knocked on his door. "Excuse me, young man. Do you have a little sugar? I ran out." Ethan gave her a packet. She looked over his shoulder at the nearly empty apartment. "You moved in a month ago, right? And your wife?" "I don't have a wife. I'm in transition." Maria nodded wisely. "Life puts you where you need to be, not where you want to be. If you want, come over for dinner tomorrow. I'll make spaghetti." Ethan went. Maria's spaghetti reminded him of his mother's, and for the first time since Christmas, he felt something akin to the warmth of home. On April 60th, Chloe sent him divorce papers. Ethan signed them without a fight. A part of him felt relieved. She deserved someone who could give her the life she wanted, and he needed to discover who he was without the weight of so many expectations. By May 90th, the project in East New York was starting to take shape. Ethan had designed a modular system that allowed old industrial buildings to be converted into 500-square-foot homes with natural light and open spaces. Cost per unit, $75,000. Andrew was impressed. "This could work on a larger scale. Have you thought about presenting it to investors?" "I don't have contacts," Ethan admitted. "Well, I do," Andrew said. "Let me make some calls." That night, sitting in his small apartment, now with a table, a mattress, and 3 chairs bought from IKEA, Ethan thought about his mother. Over the past 3 months, he had tried calling her 47 times. All his texts remained unanswered. He wrote one more. "Mom, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to give me anything back. I just want you to know that I finally understand. I'm learning slowly, but I'm learning. I love you, Ethan." Send. He didn't expect a reply. But 10 minutes later, his cell phone vibrated. A message from a number he recognized as James Taylor's. "Your mother received your message. She says she is well and that she is proud that you have found honest work. Keep it up. When the time is right, she will look for you." Ethan read the message 5 times. She's proud. For the first time in months, he smiled. By July 120th, 6 months later, the summer heat in Bushwick made Ethan's small apartment feel like an oven. He didn't have air conditioning, just an old fan Maria had given him. But there was something liberating about that honestly earned sweat, about that discomfort that reminded him he was alive, that he was fighting. Ethan woke up at 5:30 a.m. to take advantage of the cool hours. On his tiny table, surrounded by blueprints and models made with recycled cardboard, was something that had kept him awake for weeks. A project that could change everything. Dignified Housing, New York City. 120 modular apartments on an abandoned industrial lot in East New York. Total cost $6 million. Price per unit $80, $1,000. Aimed at low and middle-income families expelled from the housing market. It wasn't just architecture, it was social justice. His phone rang. It was Andrew. "Ethan, good morning. Are you sitting down?" "Yes, why?" "Because I got you an audience. There's a group of investors interested in social impact projects. They want to see you on August 15th. Ethan felt his heart race. "Who are they?" "I can't tell you much. They're discreet, but they handle serious capital. If your presentation is good, Ethan, this can be real." "How much capital?" "Enough to finance the entire complex, but you have to be impeccable. It's an opportunity that won't come again." When he hung up, Ethan looked at himself in the bathroom mirror. 6 months had changed his face. He was thinner. He had dark circles from working all night. His hands were full of calluses from being on the construction sites, but his eyes had something they had never had before. Purpose. August 1st was preparation time. Ethan spent the next 2 weeks preparing the presentation of his life. He worked on the construction site by day and in his apartment by night. Maria brought him coffee and omelets. Sometimes she stayed to watch him work. "You remind me of someone," she told him one night. "Who?" "A woman I used to see on the subway years ago. She always carried blueprints under her arm and always had that same look you have, determination mixed with fear." Ethan looked up. "What was she like?" he asked. "Older, elegant but simple," Maria replied. "I once saw her arguing with 3 men in suits over a contract. She bested all 3. Maria smiled. She had the same jawline as you, the same way of frowning when you're thinking. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. Was it my mom? I don't know, son, but whoever that woman was, she built important things, just like you are now. August 15th. The address Andrew had given him was on Park Avenue, in a luxury corporate building. Ethan felt a chill as he approached. It was the Vance Properties office. He immediately texted Andrew. There must be a mistake. You gave me the wrong address. There's no mistake, Andrew said softly. Trust me. Go in. Ethan stood in front of the building he had visited 6 months earlier in a state of absolute confusion. Now he was returning with a worn portfolio, a second-hand suit he had bought for $80, his first expensive purchase in months, and 50 pages of dreams printed on paper. The receptionist recognized him. Mr. Vance, they are waiting for you in the 4th floor conference room. Who is waiting for me? She smiled mysteriously. Go up and you'll find out. The elevator opened on the 4th floor, a level he hadn't seen before, a hallway with glass walls. Through them, he could see the city stretching to the horizon, and at the end, a wooden door with a plaque. Boardroom, President's office. Ethan knocked. Come in. He opened the door and froze. Sitting at the head of the long mahogany table, wearing a gray business suit, her hair perfectly pinned up, and her hands clasped, was his mother, Eleanor Vance. To her right, James Taylor, to her left, Rachel Miller, the lawyer, and in the back chairs, 3 more people with folders and laptops. Clearly part of the executive team. Ethan, Eleanor said in a professional, calm voice, please take a seat. Ethan couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. Mom, I am President Vance here, she said, without harshness, but firmly. And you are the architect Ethan Vance, who will present a social housing project, correct? Ethan swallowed. Correct. Then sit down and begin. You have 1 hour. Ethan walked toward the projector, his legs trembling. He connected his old laptop, whose screen had a crack in the corner he had tried to cover with tape. While the system loaded, he looked at his mother. She observed him with a neutral, executive expression, as if evaluating a stranger. And in a way, he was. The Ethan she had expelled 6 months earlier no longer existed. Good morning, he began, his voice barely shaking. My name is Ethan Vance. I am an architect specializing in social housing, and today I present a project that can change the lives of 120 families in New York City. The first slide appeared, a photograph of the abandoned lot in East New York, ugly, full of garbage, forgotten. This is a space the city has abandoned, he said. But I see potential, I see homes, I see dignity. For 45 minutes, Ethan presented every detail. Modular design, optimized 500-square-foot apartments, recycled and sustainable materials, natural light, common spaces, realistic budget, construction cost per unit, $75,000. Final price per unit, $80, $1,000. Margin 7%, enough to sustain itself, not to get rich. Social impact, 120 families with dignified housing, creation of 40 jobs, neighborhood revitalization, replicable model. His mother took notes. Jim nodded occasionally. Rachel checked numbers on her calculator. When he finished, there was silence. Jim spoke first. The budget is very tight. How do you guarantee there won't be cost overruns? Because I've spent 6 months physically working on construction sites, Ethan replied. I know every supplier, every price, every risk, and I included an 8% contingency cushion. Rachel intervened. What if the city planning department doesn't approve the permits? I've already had preliminary conversations with urban development. The project aligns with their social housing goals. I am 85% confident in the approval. An executive he didn't know raised her hand. Why should we invest $6 million in a project with barely a 7% margin? There are developments that yield 25%. Ethan looked her straight in the eye. Because this isn't just about money. It's about doing the right thing. The city is experiencing a housing crisis. Thousands of families are being driven out by inhuman prices. This project won't make us rich, but it will let us sleep peacefully. She jotted something down without showing emotion. Finally, Eleanor spoke for the first time in 45 minutes. "Ethan, a personal question." Everyone in the room tensed. Why this project? Why now? Ethan looked at her. 6 months of pain, learning, and growth fit into that silence. Because 6 months ago, I lost everything. My house, my car, my marriage, my pride, and in that process, I discovered something. Living in a $920 apartment in Bushwick, climbing 8 flights of stairs every day, cooking instant ramen because that's all I can afford. That taught me more about architecture than 5 years of university. How? Eleanor asked. Because I understood that buildings aren't meant to impress. They're meant to live in. And the people who most need dignified housing are precisely the ones with the least access to it. This project exists because I lived what they live, and because my father, his voice trembled, taught me that the hands that build matter more than the papers that sign. Eleanor closed her notebook. Thank you, Ethan. We will make a decision and inform you within 48 hours. That's all. You may leave. Ethan gathered his laptop, his papers, his worn portfolio. He walked toward the door, his hand on the knob. He stopped. President Vance? Yes? Regardless of the decision you make, thank you for every lesson, even the painful ones. He left without waiting for a reply. Once Ethan left, Eleanor remained seated in silence. The executives waited for her word. Opinions, she said. Jim was the first. The project is solid, the numbers are realistic, and he's done his homework. But the margin is too low. One mistake, and we lose money. Rachel nodded. Legally, everything is in order. The permits are viable, the contracts are clear, but I agree. The financial risk is high. The executive who had questioned the margin spoke. As a pure investment, there are much better options, but, she hesitated, as a statement of values, as a legacy. This is powerful. Eleanor looked out the window. From there, she could see the Empire State Building, that symbol of sustained resistance and effort. Anthony, she whispered, what would you do? She knew the answer. Anthony would have signed without hesitation. He always said, buildings aren't for accumulating wealth, they're for creating dignity. We approve the project, she finally said. Total investment, $9, $6 million. Under what conditions? Jim asked. Ethan will be the project director. He will report monthly to this board. He will have operational autonomy, but strict financial oversight. She paused. And if he succeeds, we will offer him a permanent position at Vance Properties, not as my son, but as an architect who proved his worth. August 17th, 11th, R0 p.m. Ethan was in his apartment, unable to sleep, when his phone rang. Unknown number. Yes, this is Ethan Vance. Mr. Vance? A professional, urgent female voice said. We are calling from Mount Sinai Hospital. Your mother, Eleanor Vance, has been admitted. She suffered a cardiac episode. She is stable, but she is asking for you. The world stopped. I'm on my way. Mount Sinai Hospital, midnight. Ethan arrived, sweating and breathless after running from the subway. The receptionist directed him to the 3rd floor, cardiology, room 307. Jim was in the hallway, looking exhausted. What happened? Ethan grabbed his arm. Stress, exhaustion. Your mother has been working 16-hour days Since Christmas, Ethan concluded. Since she kicked me out. She didn't kick you out, Jim said softly. She set you free, but that doesn't mean it didn't hurt her. Can I see her? Jim hesitated. She's awake. But Ethan, she's weak. Don't upset her. Ethan carefully pushed the door open. The room was dimly lit. In the bed, connected to monitors that beeped regularly, was his mother. For the first time in his life, Eleanor Vance looked exactly like what she was, a 64-year-old woman who had carried too much weight for too long. Mom, he whispered. She opened her eyes. A weak smile crossed her face. Hello, son. Ethan approached and took her hand. It was cold. What did you do? Why are you doing this to yourself? Because I needed to be sure, she replied, her voice tired. Sure of what? That when I gave you this opportunity, you would take it for the right reasons. She squeezed his hand weakly. Your presentation today. Anthony would have cried with pride. Ethan felt tears fall. Forgive me for every cruel word, for every moment of ingratitude, for... Eleanor lifted her free hand and touched his cheek. You are already forgiven. I forgave you the night you left. What took time was waiting for you to forgive yourself. I don't deserve this project. I don't deserve your trust. It's not about deserving, she murmured. It's about learning. And you learned, Ethan. Today I saw it in your eyes. You understand the value of effort, the weight of responsibility, the difference between privilege and entitlement. A doctor entered. Mrs. Vance needs rest, he said. Then he looked at Ethan. You can stay, but keep the conversation brief. When the doctor left, Eleanor closed her eyes. The project is approved, she whispered. You start Monday. Jim will give you the details. You're going to be okay. I'm going to be perfectly fine. But you have to promise me something. Anything. Don't work like I worked. Don't carry everything yourself. Ask for help when you need it. Trust your team. And Ethan... Yes? Live. Don't dedicate yourself only to building buildings. Build a life, one that is worthwhile. Do you promise me? I promise you, Mom. She smiled, already half asleep from the medication. Good. Because I didn't do all this for you to repeat my mistakes. I did it for you to build something better. 6 months later, in February of the following year, the lot in East New York had transformed. Where there had once been garbage and abandonment, there were now solid foundations. Steel structures rising toward the sky and the constant sound of the future being forged through construction. Ethan was on the construction site at 7:00 a.m. every day with his hard hat, boots, and blueprints under his arm. His team was small but dedicated, 2 young architects, an engineer, and 3 foremen who had worked with his father years ago. Mateo, one worker called out. We have a problem with Unit 23. The measurements don't match. Ethan climbed onto the scaffolding. He had lost his fear of heights weeks ago and checked personally. The error was minimal, but it could cause structural problems. We're taking down this section, he decided. Better to lose 2 days than compromise safety. It wasn't the first difficult decision, nor would it be the last. Monthly reports. Every first Friday of the month, Ethan presented progress to the Vance Properties Board. Eleanor, fully recovered from her cardiac episode, presided over the meetings with a critical eye. Unit 45 is 1 week behind schedule, she noted at the March meeting. Problem with the window supplier, Ethan explained. It's resolved now. We'll make up the time next week. And the budget. We are 3% under projection. I negotiated better prices with 3 suppliers. Jim smiled from his seat. Eleanor simply nodded and moved on to the next page, but at the end, when everyone left, she stopped him. Good work, Ethan. 3 words, but coming from her, they were worth more than any salary. Crisis in May. On a rainy Tuesday, part of a wall collapsed. Fortunately, no one was hurt. But 3 workers had been there minutes before. The investigation revealed that a subcontractor had used cheaper materials to increase his profit. Ethan was devastated. I should have supervised more closely, he told Andrew, sitting on the construction site in the rain. You can't be everywhere, Andrew replied, but you can learn from this. The next day, Ethan fired the subcontractor, implemented daily inspections, and added 2 quality supervisors. It cost $5,000 from the contingency fund. When he presented the incident to the board, he expected reproaches. Instead, Eleanor said, Mistakes happen. What matters is how we respond. You did the right thing. First family in August. The first finished unit was delivered in August. The Smith family, dad, mom, 2 kids, and a grandmother, had been living in a shared 300-square-foot apartment in a dense area of the Lower East Side, paying $700 a month. When Ethan handed them the keys to their new 500-square-foot home, Mrs. Smith cried. It's beautiful, she repeated, walking through the empty but light-filled apartment. I never thought we could have something like this. The youngest son, Lucas, a 10-year-old boy, ran up to Ethan. "You designed this?" "Yes. I want to be an architect when I grow up to make nice houses for people like us." Ethan knelt down. "You know what? You're exactly the kind of architect the world needs." He handed him his business card. "When you're ready for college, call me. I'll help." That night, Ethan sent a photo to his mother. Lucas standing in the doorway of his new house, with a gap in his front teeth and a smile that lit up everything. Eleanor replied, "This is building a legacy. Well done, son." December 24th, 1 year later, Eleanor was in the kitchen of her real apartment in Brooklyn Heights. Not the penthouse, not a mansion, just a comfortable home full of light, with photographs of Anthony on the walls and the aroma of baking turkey filling every corner. Ethan arrived at 5:00 p.m. with 2 bags of groceries. "I came to help with dinner," he said. "You know how to cook now?" Eleanor replied, raising an eyebrow. "Maria taught me the basics. Don't put me in charge of anything complicated, but I can peel potatoes without cutting myself." They worked together, Ethan peeling vegetables, Eleanor preparing the gravy. The radio played carols. "How many are coming?" Ethan asked. 12, Jim and his family, Rachel, Andrew, Maria, your grandmother Carol, some company employees, and Lucas and his family. I invited them. Ethan felt a knot in his throat. "Mom, it's a family dinner," he said simply. "And family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who build with you." Dinner was at 8:30 p.m. The table was smaller than the previous year. There was no fine china or crystal goblets, just mismatched plates, common glasses, and food made with love. But the conversation was real, the laughter was genuine. And when Lucas showed Ethan a drawing he had made, a tall building with the word HOPE written above it, everyone applauded. At 10 o'clock, Ethan stood up. His heart was pounding. "I want to say something." The table fell silent. Exactly 1 year ago, at a Christmas dinner, I said the cruelest words I have ever said to someone I love. I told my mother to pay rent in her own house. I humiliated her. I treated her like a burden. He looked at Eleanor, who listened with teary eyes, and he continued. She did what only a truly wise mother would do. She didn't yell at me. She didn't explain anything. She simply let me fall. She let me lose everything, and in that fall, she taught me how to fly. He turned fully toward her. "Mom, I spent this year learning what you always knew. That the value of things is not in their price, but in the effort it took to create them. That wealth without character is poverty disguised, and that true love sometimes has to be hard to be real." He pulled an envelope from his pocket. "This is for you." Eleanor opened it. Inside was a check for $35,000. "It's every dollar I spent on your card during those 3 years," Ethan explained. "It took me 12 months to save it, but it's yours, with interest." Eleanor looked at the check, then tore it into pieces. "I don't want your money," she said softly. "I want your character. And that, my son, is priceless." She stood up and hugged him. For the first time in a year, mother and son embraced in a hug that healed all wounds. The table erupted in applause. Grandma Carol cried. Maria shouted, "Bravo!" Jim raised his glass. Lucas whispered to his mom, "When I grow up, I want to be like Ethan." Eleanor smiled. "Then learn not only from his work, son. Learn from his heart." After dinner, at midnight, when everyone had left, Ethan helped his mother clean up. They washed dishes side by side in comfortable silence. "The project inauguration is in March," Ethan said. "All 120 units finished, 100% occupancy." "I know," Eleanor replied. "Jim keeps me informed. And after that, Andrew offered me a partnership at his firm, but I have other options too." Eleanor stopped washing and looked at him. "What do you want, Ethan? Not what I want or what others expect. What does your heart want, Ethan?" He thought carefully. "I want to keep doing this. Social housing projects that matter. But also," he hesitated, "I want to be close to you. I lost too many years without really knowing who you are, without valuing everything you built. I want to reclaim that time." Eleanor smiled. Then I have a proposal. Vance Properties is expanding its social impact division. We need a director, someone who understands architecture, but also the heart behind it. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a purpose, with a fair salary, no special privileges, but with the opportunity to change hundreds of lives. Are you interested, Ethan? He looked her in the eyes. Yes, but with one condition, which is that we have dinner together at least once a week without talking about work, just mother and son. Reclaiming lost time. Eleanor extended her hand. Deal. They shook hands formally, then laughed and hugged. Year 2029. Inauguration of the Anthony Vance Complex. Ethan was 40 years old. He was starting to show his first gray hairs, but his eyes shone with the satisfaction of someone who had found his place in the world. He stood in front of a complex of 15 buildings on the outskirts of the city, the Anthony Vance Residential Complex, 450 social impact homes. Beside him was Eleanor, now 69, officially retired but never absent. Your father would be shouting with excitement, she said. I know. Sometimes I feel him here, watching everything. He always has been. In the audience were the families who had received housing. Lucas, now 15, and with a full scholarship to study architecture, Maria in the front row with a tissue, Jim, Rachel, Andrew, the whole team, and a new woman next to Ethan. Anna, a teacher in underserved neighborhoods. They had been together for 2 years. She understood his passion. She shared his purpose. When Ethan took the microphone, he thought about his prepared speech, then ignored it, and spoke from the heart. This project is named after my father, Anthony Vance, a man who believed that buildings are not for accumulating wealth, but for creating dignity. But it is also the legacy of my mother, Eleanor Vance, who taught me the most important lesson of my life, that true love sometimes has to let you fall so you can learn to fly. He looked at his mother. 5 years ago, I was an arrogant man who thought I deserved everything without earning anything. Today, I am just a man who tries every day to be worthy of the name I carry. These 450 homes are not my achievement, they are our achievement. Every family that trusted the project, every worker who put their sweat into every brick, every person who believed that New York City can be a place where everyone has a dignified home. And it is a promise. As long as I live, I will keep building, not for my wallet, but for our collective future. The crowd applauded. Ethan cut the ceremonial ribbon. The doors opened and families began to enter their new homes. Lucas approached Ethan. Remember when you gave me your card 5 years ago? Of course. I saved it, and now. The boy showed an envelope. I was accepted into Columbia University's architecture school with a full scholarship. I want to design buildings like you. Not like me, Ethan said, putting a hand on his shoulder. Better than me. Learn from my mistakes and build a world we can only imagine. That night on Eleanor's terrace, mother and son sat, looking at the city lights stretching out to the horizon. Are you happy, son? Eleanor asked. Yes, happier than ever. And Anna is different from Chloe. Real, genuine. She loves my work, not my status. That is the difference between love and a transaction. Ethan nodded. Then he asked, And you, Mom, are you happy? Eleanor thought carefully. I am at peace, and that is better than happiness. Happiness comes and goes. Peace remains. And what gives you peace? Seeing that you became the man I always knew you could be. Seeing that the Vance name means something greater than money. Knowing that when I am gone, there will be something worthy to inherit. Don't talk like that. You'll live 30 more years. Eleanor laughed. Maybe, but when my time comes, I want you to know something. That everything I built, she extended her hand toward the city, is not my true legacy. The man you became, that is my masterpiece. Ethan's eyes welled up with tears. I don't deserve a mother like you. No one deserves love, Ethan, she replied softly. We can only honor it, and you have honored it. They remained there while the city shone beneath them, a city of dreams built with effort, of homes earned with dignity, of legacies that transcend generations. And in that moment, They both understood that Eleanor's silence, the silence that almost destroyed her family, had finally spoken, and its message was clear. True love is not shown with easy gifts but with difficult lessons. It is not measured in dollars spent, but in character forged. Eleanor Vance had built a real estate empire, but her true inheritance was a son who finally understood that a man's worth is not measured by what he possesses, but by what he builds with his own hands. When the city lights go out and only the echo of our decisions remains, we understand that there is no greater inheritance than dignity, nor wealth worth more than a mother's peace of heart. Eleanor learned to set boundaries, and Ethan understood, late but in time, that true love is not measured in square feet or luxury cars, but in character.